Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So there seems to be weirdness going on in TYT. Now I've heard, and so this is somewhat of a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt, take it with a heavy heaping grain of salt, that there was some kind of feud between Door and TYT, where being Door was saying some things that was interpreted as going after TYT. Now, there's no way for me to know that's true or not. They're searching for the video. When I find the video, I can do a story on it to see what's actually there in the video itself. But beyond that point, there was something else that was weird. Somebody who used to work for TYT was in a long Twitter conversation, and in that conversation was talking about some of the conditions and some of the things that takes place at TYT. And even going into this thing of talking about how they've degraded over time. It's an interesting thread. Let's see if I can show it. So the person at the top, right here. So Reefer Man, somebody says, it's preliminary effort, but if you think your news source should report the news instead of giggling over Trump's silliness, contact me. I have a plan to force them to talk about actual issues. It'll take a lot of us, but that's the basis of true activism. Now, the people here are kind of making this point of like, yeah, we don't really trust them as a news source. They may not be as bad as Fox News or MSNBC, but at the same token, they have a particular bias here. They're problematic. And that's, look, whatever you want to think about TYT one way or the other, I mean, there are people out there who have that particular sentiment and that particular feeling. Those people are not necessarily alone. There's a lot of them. I run across them probably more than the people who are fans of TYT. So this guy, John Blackman, yeah, I finally had to treat TYT like I treat Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. Do I think they're bad? As bad? No, but bad enough to put them on mute. I listen to some of Democracy Now!, though I have to turn them off at times. Also, I like Loud and Clear with whistleblower John Kirkaku. Now, here's another one, Susan. The last 6 months has shown they simply don't give a fuck about feedback or constructive criticism. They squandered our donations, wasted their platform, and chased off progressive viewers. If you have an idea about how to get them to wake the fuck up, I'm all ears. These were viewers. These were people who used to watch and maybe even give and subscribe to the network. And for whatever reason, they feel that something is fundamentally changed in the coverage that the network is giving. Let's say it that way. Let's keep going. So, Susan, AP is behind a paywall. AP is only a tactic to try to retain their disgruntled members. If they wanted the topics to have exposure, they'd make them all public, but they don't. Even after we've pointed this out to them time and time again. Now, see, I'm not sure what AF is. I think AP exists. They give a fuck at least to a degree. TYT would need diversity in its coverage again. So this is to do with coverage. So this person, John Grisano, I can back this up. While I was at TYT, I begged them to listen to the members and involve them in production decisions. I had several tech initiatives that would make this happen, and all were ignored in favor of scams like the $2 million donation drive. These aren't people who just hated TYT. These were people who either worked at TYT, and some of these people are maybe even members or people who actually like the network. And their response to this is to get it to reform, not to abandon it. I'm fascinated by that. Like, it's how do we get them to wake the fuck up? It's almost this acknowledgement of this was a network at one point, and this was a lefty network. How do we get this lefty independent network back on track? This is fair. They don't seem to be insane. So, Walter, it's investment. It's talking about that Jink got from those guys. I think they're the reason for TYT is becoming more establishment. So Walter is commenting to John Grisano. Grisano is the one that worked there. I know this is a little winding, but I'm trying to show this thread. Susan, The Buddy Romer investment in 2014, nah, that was small potatoes compared to this last one for $20 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg and cronies. The last one is probably more likely to be the big problem. This is not a singular thing. I'm saying this conversation is not singular. I've seen this conversation multiplied on multiple platforms. The questions become, is that money going to influence the coverage and the behavior of the network? It's a fair question. Michael Canopin. I think TYT got more establishment because it grew and drew more mainstream viewers via click, and they're focusing on that market. Plus, Cenk's obsession to get rid of Trump tells a lot. He initially pixelated Trump. That is true. Now, John Grisano. Yeah, the things Cenk want to happen to protest Trump was never willing to call as he watched the primaries being stolen. It isn't really. TYT has long suffered from a colossal lack of vision from the executives. There is no planning or introspection, just panic compliance with whatever Cenk's latest shiny object happens to be. Understand the criticism here. I've made this criticism myself. Like, in one of the videos, Cenk comes out and is like, we might have to go into the streets. We may have to protest. We may have to go into the streets. If Donald Trump takes down Mueller, we're going to have to fight. And it's like, they stole the election from Bernie Sanders. And you sat there and did squat. Not just sat there and did squat. You turned around and voted and told your audience to vote for the person who cheated your guy. Now, when they're actually subverting democracy, they're actually going through the process of rigging an election. Literally, before our own eyes. I don't have a television network. There is supposed to be a lefty television network. That lefty television network turned tail and supported the people who cheated the guy who they were initially supporting. If you're going to tell me to come out into the streets because Donald Trump, within his constitutional right, may fire Mueller, I understand that it's somewhat inappropriate. I understand you shouldn't do it. I even understand you shouldn't have fired Comey. But why am I going out into the streets for something like this, as opposed to going out into the streets when they were actually stealing the election? And why is your network all uppity now about going into the streets, throwing your body into the streets, flinging your bodies into the line? We must stop the gears. Why are you okay with doing that now, but when they were actually stealing the election, when you actually had a chance to make some level of impact by saying something about the fact that they were cheating the guy? Mum. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure there were times where it was mentioned that it looks like they're being dishonest, or it looks like they're being unfair in this process, without necessarily going to the point of saying rigged. But even if you didn't necessarily want to go to the point of saying rigged, you understand that the guy was being cheated. You understand that the guy was being railroaded. And at the end of the day, you still turned around and supported the person who cheated and railroaded that guy and who disenfranchised millions of people who watched your network. If I'm going to throw my body into the streets, will I do it when I actually have some level of effect? And should that have been done? Should your network have been rallying, calling the troops, rallying the sons as it was being stolen? Not after the fucking fact. It's like, oh, you're a brave guy now that you're not dealing with Democrats. Let's keep going. So, John Grisano again. Unfortunately, by taking the $20 million, Cenk has finally subjected himself to actual capitalism. This will not end well for TYT. And the last one. The change in TYT management was immediate. All of a sudden, complaining about your supervisor became a firing offense. Jamie was basically banned from the main show, and support from anything but breaking news that would be picked up by CNN was dropped, meaning no more Flint. I don't necessarily know what's going on right now in TYT, but it seems to be something that's going on internally that is being felt externally. Meaning the people who love the show, the people who used to watch it, the people who are fully in the bag form, subscribers and everything else, myself included, some point along the way, that is fractured. And there's an element that no longer engages and watches and likes, and to some degree even distrusts how TYT operates. Now, you can't say that all of these people are at fault. All of these people are picking up something. Like, it's not just fucking magic. All of these people are picking up on something that's wrong with the network. And it seems like there's some kind of internal issue that's going on in regards to the way management is functioning or acting. It is a television network. It is a network like a company as any other, and they want to grow and everything else. So I think it's perfectly fair that TYT's model of the world is also applied to TYT. If a person is getting a huge amount of cash, say from a politician, or that politician is running, I give you a huge amount of cash. Based on TYT's logic and based on my own logic, that person is being bribed, that person is being bought. If that person wants to continue to get that financial, let's call it financial remuneration for their votes and everything else, then they're going to continue to do what I want. I will continue to pay you, I will continue to help you out, I will continue to get resources, and I will not use this money against you if you fall in line and take the cash. That's our political system. Open air bribery. But the key to that, though, is the cash. The cash is the tether. The point that people are getting at is, wait a minute, you're taking $20 million from this plutocrat and his cronies. Aren't you somehow tethered in the same way that some of these other people are tethered by the cash? That seems like a fair question to me. That seems like a fair question to me. And I understand his answer, oh, that's just for books and monitors and programming and all this other stuff. The question that people ask, primed based on the way TYT functions or thinks about the world in regards to politics, is, does that money in some way compel you? Does it create a tether and a link that changes who you fundamentally are to conform to something that this other guy, who's this kind of just Democratic contributor, is associated with? If it applies to politicians, why doesn't it apply to TYT? It's a fair question. It's a totally fair question. All I'm going to say on this is, whatever is going on, I am paying attention to the story. I asked John Grisano if he wanted to come onto the show. He was not ready to come onto the show and talk about it, so I'm just using the Twitter thing that was open for pretty much anybody to see. Stay tuned. Jordan Sheridan gets taken out at one point. Cenk Uygur gets fired or leaves Justice Democrats. And now they're saying there's some kind of internal shakeup where people are either being fired or people are being kept off the main show. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll see what else happens. Leave it at that. All right, guys. You have a good one.